What's up, guys? Back here with the first collection update of 2023. I hope you all had a good new year and really enjoyed really enjoyed yourself. So we are back with a CD update, which I was not planning on doing a CD update first. I was planning on doing either a vinyl or a tape update, but I wound up finding more stuff, or like looking at the stack and being like, I need to listen to that one or two more times before I could really yammer on about it for any considerable amount of time. So in the background, we are listening to Formula's Fatal to the Flesh by Morbid Angel. I just was in the mood for some Morbid Angel this morning. I'm not particularly sure why. I was watching a guy's ranking of the videos, and it was probably the spawn of my mood, but whatever, who cares? Perrier, Polish beer this morning. New year, new cup. I bought this boot at one of my local breweries, and I'm still trying to figure out how to properly pour into it without causing trouble. I'm almost there. Oh, gotta drink the foam. Don't want to be wasteful, you know. All right, so whatever. I'll take the rest of that in a minute. So we're going to talk about a couple of records here. This is all going to be a mixed match of stuff. We'll start off with some black metal. This is In the Woods with A Heart of the Ages. This is a Norwegian black metal band. It's black metal with a lot of other influence. It's got a lot of proggy moments to it, a lot of weird gothness to it. Tons of some really cool folky-ish melodies in there. A lot of clean vocals, which I find particularly very cool. They do a cover of White Rabbit, which is, what is it, Jefferson Airplane or Starship? Whatever one it is. I think it's Jefferson Airplane. And it fits pretty well with their style. The clean vocals are really cool. The female vocals are interesting. That's usually a sign of a band starting to go downhill, but since it's their first record and it's in this kind of style, it's not always that case. They also do Mourning the Death of Ace, which I was listening to this and I was like, are you sure this isn't a Pink Floyd cover? Because it sounds pretty much spot on like a Pink Floyd cover. But yeah, good record. In the Woods did a really good job with that. A lot of these are Christmas gifts too, by the way. Most of the CDs are going to be either Christmas gifts or things I've picked up since Christmas. This is a gift from my wife. This is Worm Ouroboros with their self-titled release. This is a Doom-inspired post-rock band with some really, really cool aesthetics to them. I really enjoyed the artwork on here. So this is a complete blind buy. She went to the local shop and looked for a couple things that looked like something I would like. And she has my discog so she could tell what I don't have. And it's a great record, man. I really enjoyed this quite a bit. I was kind of surprised that I did as much too, because I'm not the biggest post-rock fan. Like, I'll listen to post-rock influence on records that I do like, but I usually don't go for straight-up post-rock all that often. But, you know, that mixed with like the doom metal and the really ethereal clean vocals in here are something that I find particularly cool. So check out Worm Ouroboros if you guys have not heard them. Next, I have the 5 CDs that I showed in my year-end list in here, so I'll actually go through the packaging this time. This is Disharmonium by Blut aus Nord. This is the new album from last year that ranked particularly not as high as it did on some others' list, on my list. But so here is the regular slipcase right here. Not necessary. And then there is the front cover, which y'all have probably seen about 1 million times by now. Very cool. A lot of this like Cthulhian, Lovecraftian monstrosities all over the place here. This is a really interesting record. The first time I listened to it, I wasn't particularly all that impressed with it, but then upon revisitation, I wound up becoming a pretty big fan of it. It's a band that I think has regularly impressed me upon multiple listens. You know, it's one of those kind of bands where I'm like, oh, I listened to this once, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's a good black metal, and then it's background black metal at that point to me. But then, you know, one day I'm just like, I hear somebody else mention Blue House Nord, and then I go back and listen to everything that I have, which is, I don't know, 5 records maybe, and I'm just like, this is a great band. So as long as I stay away from the industrial Blue House Nord, I'm in good shape. Next, I picked this up for like $4 in the used bin at my local shop. This is Gravitas Maximus by Pyrexia. This is a classic brutal death metal band from back in the day, New York death metal at that, which you probably have a good idea as what Pyrexia sounds like. This new stuff isn't as like techie brutal as like the early material. This stuff has a lot of groove to it, which has kind of been something that's been incorporated into their music pretty much the entire career. But in particular, this one is a really good record. It's not always the case that these old bands are going to still be producing records that are actually worth owning. So that's good on you guys, Pyrexia. It's out on Unique Leader. There's not really all that much I could say too much about it, other than it's an old band doing brutal death metal. It's groovy, it's heavy, and it's fun, man. You saw a little blacktail pass through here. It's a little Miss Fauna. She's on her way to her south tower over there. We got them one for Christmas. Actually, I should say my mother got us a tower for the cats for them for Christmas, which is hilarious. Oh yeah. So next, I pretty much impulse purchased these. So this is 3 albums by a German band called Condestos. It's 2 EPs, being these 2, yeah, and then the full-length record. This is wild, dude. So it was on a stack at the checkout counter that they just bought, and I was like, can I take a look? And I grabbed a couple of things out of there. You'll see them in the other updates. I'm still gonna finish listening to everything. So I like straight up blind bought them because I liked this cover so much. She told me at the counter that all of them are going to be between like $2.99 and $4.99 each. So I was just like, whatever, toss them on the stack. And it's a super weird project, dude. So basically, if you like Silencer, you might like this. And Silencer is already a particularly really polarizing band in the black metal community as it is, let alone not as good as at the style as Silencer is. So these 2 EPs are probably the better stuff than the full length, particularly the one that I picked out automatically. But then you get to this one. One thing I noticed with these ones, first off, is the production value. I like the guitar tone. I think it's cool. It's harsh and it's like tonally static, you know, kind of like a lot of this kind of depressive, raw black metal inspired by the likes of whatever Burzum and stuff like that would be. You got these guys doing that, but the drums are super loud. And then you go to this full-length record here. First off, check out this weird human being staring me in the face the entire time I'm talking about this. But you get this weird production on the drums where the kick drum is so much louder than everything else. Like, it is like distracting. And there were like points in this where they're playing like these really somber, hazy, static DSPM riffs, and there's just a booming kick drum and like nothing else. So it sounds kind of like trap music or like dance hall music. It's absolutely hysterical. And I don't know. I kind of like it. I'm assuming that was intentional because it's Germany, and I know a lot of like German goths are really into whatever dance hall, whatever nonsense. I don't know, man. I don't associate myself with such behavior. But yeah, so it's interesting listen. We'll see how it goes later on of that sitting on my shelf. Next, another one I picked up out of the used bin in my local shop. This is Under Attack by the Casualties. I've looked at the CD for years going into the store, and I just never would pull the trigger on it, and I have no idea why. So I was there the other day, and he runs a 5 CDs for 5 used CDs for $20. unless specially marked as like imports or out of press or something like that. So, you know, you're walking out of there with scores every time. And this was in there, and I was like, you know what? For $4, I'm just taking it home and I'm done with it. So I pretty much popped it in the CD player on my way out of there. I think I went back to work after that. I had a long break at work because I had some students cancel. And I really, really like this, man. This is tons of fun. I really, really need to get more into this kind of crusty punk. I get that this is like the pop of crusty punk, the Casualties, which whatever, because this band's pretty heavy. It's fast, it's really angry. I really like the vocals. It's kind of wretched, the vocal style at least. And yeah, it's a good record. I like the gang vocals and kind of like the skate punk feel of this record. It's good stuff, man. The Casualties are a lot of fun. I'm glad I finally pulled the trigger on that one. Next, Blind Buy for pretty cheap at the Volto Records in Greenfield, Wisconsin. This is Carry On Crows Over Cameo by the Wolves of Avalon. So funny enough, I didn't know who this was, and then I watched Gordon's video over at the Darkened Hymns channel, and they took the #1 spot on his list. Sorry if you haven't watched it, I didn't mean to spoil anything. But so he was kind of talking about it, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm glad I picked that up. This is their first record from 2011, and it's pretty good, man. I enjoyed this quite a bit. It's English, kind of England's answer to Graveland, I would say. And when I say Graveland, I don't mean Thousand Swords. I don't mean Following the Voice of Blood. I mean like the newer Graveland, the folky stuff with the weird vocals. You know, kind of, you know how Rob Darkin kind of croaks through his vocals. This is one of the bands that actually kind of continues that style, and I think it's pretty interesting. I would definitely say it's worth a purchase, especially out of a used bin. I mean, come on now. It's got tons of folky elements. It's mildly epic, but it's not super energetic. It keeps a pretty mid-pace a lot of the time. It kind of has that, like, I don't want to say pagan metal as a genre, but it has like the wolf chant and Heidevolk effect of like, yeah, we're not cooking fast, but we're keeping a steady pace. It kind of has that style to it, and yeah, definitely check out the Wolves of Avalon if you've not. Another one that came out of my year-end list. This is the new album by Phobophilic, Enveloping Absurdity. This album was amazing, dude. I was super, super impressed with this. You guys heard me mention a ton about this on my year-end list, and it's just a great Death Doom record. It seems to pull from kind of all over on the influences. I don't remember the phaser being on this song, and hang on. Emulaire, I don't know how to pronounce that. I never remembered there being phasers on this track. But yeah, Enveloping Absurdity, great Phobophilic record. 3 albums by one of my favorite bands, and I can basically definitively say I own all of the Bathory albums, including the 3 worst Bathory albums. I usually hate spending money on stuff that I know I'm not going to listen to very often, but I make minor exceptions for certain bands, being Bathory and Sabotage, and maybe Candlemass on occasion. But, you know, this is kind of rough. Specifically, these two are pretty rough. This one in particular is probably the worst Bathory album. It's just, I don't know, man. The vocals are crap, dude. These vocals are terrible on this album. The production's bad. The drums don't sound good. It sounds really hollow and fake. And it's just something that, I don't know, man. I really struggle with hating on Bathory, but sometimes I guess it just needs to be done when it comes to this record. And then this record has similar issues, though it's not as absolutely deplorable as Destroyer of Worlds. But Octagon kind of has that similar awful production. The vocals are a little bit better, and the songs kind of flow a little better. And then this album isn't that bad. These are really the only 2 bad Bathory albums. But this one in particular, I could definitely put this on again, and I will put this on again. It's thrashy, it's riffy. I feel like if this didn't have the Bathory name on it, and I think this would have done a lot better at the time, and maybe not actually, because you know what, this is 1990 what? I don't know, 94. Thrash was on its way out long before then, so I don't know. But either way, it was a pretty enjoyable kind of blackened-ish thrash metal record. It's good stuff, man. Check this out if you haven't listened to this. I have it on LP and I barely ever touch it, so. Alright, another one my wife gave me for Christmas. This is the Wounded Kings with Embrace of the Narrow House. So this is an English doom metal band. This is their debut album from 2011, I think so. And Fichwald Industries, I believe, is the label. It looks really cool. I like the aesthetics. The packaging is very interesting. For being so plain and, you know, this nasty tan color. The smoker walls, you know, even hotbox in the kitchen for 50 years color. But it's a good doom record, man. It's everything you'd expect out of somebody saying it's a traditional doom album to you. You would pretty much be like, oh, I know exactly what that sounds like. And that's kind of like what the Wounded Kings really sound like. It's, you know, it's kind of spooky themes like a lot of these doom bands tend to have. It's a good record. Check this out. Another one from the year-end lists. This is Origins by Sayor. Sayor really was a last-minute addition to that list, but they impressed me so much in the handful of listens that I gave this record that I had to make the effort to get it into the collection. Really, really awesome record. I really liked the album cover. It looks really, really good. Out on Season and Mist. So this album seems to be a lot more folk metal. It's got a lot more heavy metal riffy stuff, and that's something I think Sayor really benefits from. They really do put in a really great amount of atmosphere into some well-driven riffs, which is not something you see a lot in this kind of black metal. There's usually a lot of meandering and, you know, droning, kind of repetitious riffing, which is fine because I like that style. But this has like a lot more of a heavy metal effect. This is like, I used to kind of consider this like the UK answer to Panopticon. I would say this is more like the Chachwin, where there's a lot more heavy metal influence. There's a lot more riffing that's, you know, kind of groovy and easily sinking your teeth into those kind of riffs, you know. Like Panopticon's a little like wine swirlery, highbrow. They said it's got a lot more meat and potatoes riffs, stuff you could really catch on to right away, rather than having to spend more time with it every time. It's a really good record. Next. Speaking of traditional metal, this is Stygian Shore. Picked this guy up off of HHR, got it for Christmas actually, but this is a band from Wichita, Kansas, which is really, really interesting. It's got a lot of traditional New Wave of British heavy metal influence. This is their first EP from 1984, by the way. Wichita, Kansas, definitely not known for their traditional metal. And these guys never really went on to do much else other than this until like 2017, 2014. So they broke up for like 30 years and then decided, hey, we're gonna roll back up and start trying this all over again for whatever reason. It's good, man. It's really just hard rocking kind of heavy metal stuff. My wife kind of picked out some stuff that kind of sounded grungy in the vocals, which thankfully that was pre-grunge, so I guess that wasn't the influence itself. It just kind of happens to have a bit of that vocal yarl that a lot of grunge bands are pretty known for. But yeah, Stygian Shore's cool. Check it out if you haven't. Another one from the end of the year list, Satanic Christ Decimation by Via Crucis. This was awesome. This ranked pretty high on my end of the year list. I really, really, really did enjoy the crap out of this record. I think it's a lot of fun. I like how aggressive it is. It's kind of always been aggressive, but this one sounds a lot more suffocatingly cacophonous compared to the first EP, which is behind me there. I don't remember the exact title of it. This one, it seems to be lessening the black metal influence and to be a little bit more of the incantation style as opposed to, I don't know, the Diocletian or the Archgoat style, which is cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more Via Crucis material coming up soon from what I understand. So, next, It's Time to Rise from the Grave by Undeath, another one from the end of the year list. This is again out of Prosthetic Records, like I mentioned in my video, and it's great. I really enjoy this. This is going to be something that's probably going to get revisited quite a bit. Maybe not as much as Phobophilic or some of the other death metal records on there, but you know, if I'm ever like in the mood for something like Cannibal Corpse, but I don't want to hear Cannibal Corpse, this is definitely going to be probably one of the first things I reach for. This or the Monstrosity stuff that I own. Next, one of my favorite bands from Eastern Europe, at least, All Belong to the Night by Drook. Another great classic black metal band that needs no introduction by any means whatsoever. Nice little digipack with a CD that doesn't want to stay in its spot for whatever reason. That's the inside there. I don't know who these dudes are. It's in the language of Ukraine. They're using, what is the alphabet they use there? I know it's the like Eastern Russian alphabet, but I don't remember particularly what it's called. But this is good, man. This is a style change quite a bit for Drook. They're starting to incorporate a lot more of the melancholy in there, which they've kind of always had it, but it's definitely a little bit more of a predominant thing here. So Drook's really good. In the last CD for today, A Nightmare Story by Fraternia. This is a Swedish power metal album, which, if you couldn't tell, it most definitely is everything you were expecting it to be. This cover is like textbook, like reading a book by its cover. You know just what this is going to sound like, and it really, really does. There is no frills to be had. There's nothing particularly special about this in comparison to any of the other bands of this style, other than the fact that it was from 2002, which is usually a good way to get me to at least give it a shot. Being early on playing this style, you get a lot more forgiveness for being particularly generic in my book, because there wasn't that many bands doing it at the time that were getting into, you know, the mainstream success. But it's everything you'd expect out of a pretty melodic power metal album. Some lots of keyboards. It's not as hokey as like Stradivarius, but it's really good. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, the first update. I got some different stuff coming up this year compared to what I have been doing, so stay tuned for that. Once I finish these updates, the channel is going to be a little bit more frequent. So I'll see y'all in the next one. Keep it greasy.